Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really incredible discovery that might just change how we save the most fragile lives in their very first moments.
Okay, so get this. For about 1% of all newborns, the first few minutes of life are a flat-out emergency. Now, 1% might not sound like a huge number, but think about it. That's thousands of babies every single day who need immediate help just to take their first breath.
And in that critical window, the main goal is simple: restore blood flow to the brain and heart. Get that oxygen moving. For decades, we've had a standard, trusted procedure for this, a technique that's taught to every single doctor and nurse.
Right there, that specific spot is the global standard, and it's all based on a pretty logical idea of where the heart is and how to squeeze it to get the blood pumping. But what if that simple idea wasn't quite right? This is where the whole story takes a fascinating turn. See, some researchers started to wonder if the very foundation of this life-saving technique had a tiny, hidden flaw. So here's the thing. The guidelines we use for a baby that's maybe an hour old, they're mostly based on data from older babies. We're talking infants, children, even up to 3 years old. We've basically been guessing or extrapolating that a newborn is just a smaller version of a toddler.
And that right there leads to the fundamental question. A baby's body changes so fast right after birth. So does a brand new baby's chest anatomy really match a 6-month-old's? Is the target even in the same place?
To finally get a real answer, a team of researchers in Canada decided to do something that, believe it or not, had never really been done before. They set out to create the first ever precise map of the heart right in that immediate newborn period.
And their method was actually pretty simple and totally non-invasive. They just used modern ultrasound, the same kind of tech used during pregnancy, to get a clear real-time look at where everything actually is inside these brand new little chests.
And what they saw on those screens, well, it challenges a fundamental belief that's been at the very core of neonatal resuscitation for a long, long time.
All right, so the logic has always been this. We're performing what's called a cardiac pump. You press on the sternum, you directly squeeze the heart's main pumping chamber, that's the super powerful left ventricle, against the spine, and that forces blood out to the rest of the body. Makes sense, right?
And here's the bombshell. The study found that the target, the left ventricle, it isn't actually under the spot we've been aiming at all these years. It's just not there. So let's break this down. The guideline says to compress right here, in the middle of the chest. But the ultrasound map showed that the heart's main engine, the left ventricle, is actually sitting a little bit off to the side, to the left. You can see the disconnect right there, between the practice and the actual anatomy.
And the numbers are just incredibly clear on this. In a whopping 94% of the newborns they studied, the left ventricle was located off to the side of the sternum, not directly under the midline where we've been taught to do compressions. That's a huge difference.
So you have to ask, right? If we're not compressing the left ventricle, what are we compressing? Well, the study showed it's mostly the right side of the heart, which pumps blood to the lungs and the body's biggest blood vessels, like the aorta.
This discovery isn't just a minor correction on an anatomical map. It has this massive domino effect. It forces us to question the very mechanism of how these life-saving compressions actually work in the first place. And what this does is it brings two competing theories into the spotlight. On one side, you've got the cardiac pump theory, the one we thought we were using. And on the other, the thoracic pump theory, which might just be what's really going on.
So, like we said, this is the classic squeeze the water balloon explanation. But if the new findings are right, this is probably not the main way it works in newborns, because we're just not squeezing the right part.
This alternative theory might be the real reason why the current method still works even if we're technically missing the target. By compressing the whole chest, you increase the pressure inside, and that's what pushes the blood forward. It's working, but maybe for a completely different reason than we've always believed. So why does any of this matter? I mean, if it works, right? Well, it matters because if a procedure is working almost by accident, understanding the correct mechanism is the absolute first step toward making a good, life-saving procedure even better. And the authors of the study, they don't mince words. They say it directly. This new evidence doesn't just tweak a detail. It challenges the whole reason we do what we do, and it demands that we re-examine everything. The big takeaway here isn't about pointing fingers or saying we were wrong. This is exactly what science is supposed to be. It's about constantly refining what we know. So this discovery isn't an ending. It's a brand new beginning.
And that's the ultimate, powerful question this research leaves us with. It doesn't give us the final answer yet, but it asks something new. It's a question that could totally reshape a fundamental practice in medicine and, just maybe, give the most fragile patients of all an even better chance.